For the fifth straight time, we recap a Titans win over the Indianapolis Colts with you on Titans Talkback. 19-10, the Titans shut down Jonathan Taylor and ride 128 yards from Derrick Henry to a 4-2 record and a win in Nissan Stadium. Welcome to Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com alongside former Titan Kevin Dyson. My name is Will Boling, and Dr. Dyson, they find a way again to make it 5 in a row against Indianapolis.
Feels good to win, man.
Sure does.
Golly, it seems like we're in a whole different season compared to what we were talking about early part of September, man. But whatever reason, it's turned around and they got things going. I'll start with one thing that's probably the most underestimated thing of this turnaround is the lack of penalties. They had 2 penalties total today, including one on the very first play of the game. So let's talk about the defense. Obviously had 2 picks, 1 pick six. Andrew Adams got him a pick 6. As my buddy over there, Ron Slay, probably listened. He probably called in later. He was very adamant about my brother Nathaniel going to give you some gimmies, give you a pick or something like that. He let me know about that today at the game. But just like he said, man, if you put him in pressure, you put him, make him uncomfortable, he's likely to turn the ball over. If you let him sit back there like a 7-on-7 and get his jersey dirty, he's going to do what he can. And I was impressed by the Titans defense, man. Today, they got a lot of pressure with 4- and 5-man pressure. Wasn't a whole lot of bringing that extra guy. They played a lot of zone. You heard Coach Mack talk about some zone blitz schemes that they were doing. One, it was inevitable with the pressure that it presented, and Ryan was trying to get rid of the football because he was worried about getting hit, and it was a pick. And I was noticing at that time too as well, you know, if he was sitting back there, he gets antsy. He's feeling all that pressure, man. He was just likely to throw it up there and give guys opportunity to make plays. But when he was just comfortable hitting that foot and letting go, you know, we're talking about 5-6 yards per attempt. So kudos to the defense on that. They was also getting off the field. Colts was only 30% on third down. That was huge. No significant big plays today. I was very surprised in the fact that they threw the ball 44 times, put the game in the hands of Matty Ice, as opposed to Taylor, who is kind of the guy coming off an injury. I get that. He only had 10 carries, but 17 total carries for the Colts, and Matt Ryan had the ball in his hands 44 times, completing 33 passes. Offensively, let me start with the King.
Yeah.
As grim as it seemed early on, you really have nothing there, but they just kept grinding. Everybody kind of made the comparison to when Eddie would have 30 carries, 100 yards, but it seemed to put the game away. And when they needed him, especially in that 20-something yard run there at the end, he found a way to make a play. There was 8-9 guys just sitting there, and he got that big run, reeled it off, sealed the deal, and that just shut it all down. They were steady. They stayed with the formula. He had 30 carries, 128 yards today, and he still had over 4 yards of carry, which it didn't seem like that. There was some struggles, offensive line, particularly on that left side. Seemed to be a lot of penetration. There's a lot of times when before he can even get going, there's a lot of penetration that kind of stopped him right there at the end of his tracks. But he hit a lot of cutback lanes. He did find a way to make some plays there, especially late in the game. They got him going, got him rolling when you need him. That was crucial. The two penalties for the day. Austin Hooper. Big plays.
What a game.
3 huge, big plays today. Let's start with the third down play. He makes a guy miss, extends the drive on a critical third down. Then he got a phenomenal catch in traffic, and then he got the juggling catch to seal the deal. So, you know, kudos to Austin Hooper, man. You can see the confidence in Tannehill and him increasing, his confidence as a ball player increasing. So, you know, we expect and we look for bigger things from him from this point on. But, man, hats off to the Tennessee Titans. Hats off to the coaching staff, the organization. 5 in a row, sitting here 5-2 when we were up here about 6 weeks ago. Like, what is going to happen? This is going to be one of those dark. We're looking for the second, third round draft, pick of the draft coming up in 2023. But kudos to Vrabel and his coaching staff and the organization and the players for preparing and being right here in the thick of it. Number 1 in the AFC South.
Austin Hooper had 55 yards in a Titans uniform coming into this game this season. He finishes today with 56. Big catch late to finish off a 19-10 win for the Tennessee Titans, 5 in a row over the Indianapolis Colts, and helping put away those Indianapolis Colts this season in the race for the AFC South. You can join us on the phone lines at 615-737-1045. Titans fans, you have your opportunity to take your victory lap over the Indianapolis Colts for the 5th straight time. 615-737-1045, where Eric in Nashville leads us off this evening. Good afternoon, Eric.
Hey, guys. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Just coming back from the games today. Before I get to the couple of points I want to talk about the game, I just want to say the crowd was fantastic, electric at the game. The only kind of little bit downside is there were a couple of Colts fans who were behind me when Ryan Tannehill went down. Was kind of joking and laughing. Didn't appreciate that too much, but I held my tongue because I didn't want to start up anything. So, but otherwise, first of all, what can you say about Andrews? I'm just getting mixed up with the guy's name. Andrew Adams. I'm sorry, guys. The fact 10 tackles today, as well as that pick six, and the fact I cannot believe that the Steelers had him because they're not known for letting a guy like that get away. And the fact that we were able to start in the game today, and basically Vrabel said the reason why he was able to do that because he was smart and just able the way he read that interception and just was able to get just so ecstatic about that, and also play up Austin Hooper making a huge juggling catch the way he ran the ball. And I know that Mike Keith was excited because I know he didn't mean to do it. Said Derrick Henry, of course he meant to say he said Eddie Jones, but he didn't say that. Derrick Henry. I'm kind of out of breath, guys. Just excited, still just pumping the game. Guys, y'all have to excuse me, but guys, I'm going to get off to let's just get some other callers, go Titan, and we'll talk again soon. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Eric.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. And you know what? In the opening, I failed to mention a couple guys that stood out to me as well, like Hooker and Bud Dupree. They showed up in a big way today. Their presence was felt. Hooker had 10 tackles and a tackle for loss. Big play came, a fumble recovery. Bud Dupree was relentless. He had a sack, quarterback pressures, another tackle for loss. But Andrew Adams, a guy, I had to look him up. Like, who is that?
That's right.
And he had a phenomenal play, and it's just, it goes to show you the guys were playing smart football today, and getting some of your guys back, the difference that it made in the defense today, essentially sealing this win. I mean, it was a gut-wrenching, low-scoring game. The Titans right now don't look like they're going to be a high-octane offense. This is kind of similar to back in the day. You're going to grind it out. You're going to have those 12-10 victories, or like today, a 19-10 victory. But as long as you feel confident in where you're at and within those games, you're always going to find a way to win. And you're going to have them games where you blow up and you have 44 points on the board and you blow a team out. But when you have these close games and you just learn how to overcome adversity within each of those moments and you find ways to win, that's what the Titans have done, especially in this 5-game win streak.
Titan Heather up next for our weekly conversation with her. It seems like after wins. That's a good thing if we know that Heather is on the phone lines, because it means the Titans have won and that Heather is here from Ohio to take her victory lap, where you can join us at 615-737-1045. What's going on, Heather? How are you?
I'm feeling good, y'all. I'm feeling good. The Tennessee Titans has won the game. Yes, they did. I tell y'all one thing. When I watched the first half, they did the field goal, 3-0, and then they did another touchdown. They did pretty good. The Titans was hot. Mm-hmm. Then that's when help me, Lord. Just what I'm trying to say is that Tannehill did good. Don't get me wrong, but so when he tried to throw the ball, he did get sacked, but one time today. But other than that, he got injured. But after that, he came back. He came back into the game, and then everybody did their part. And also, I'm going to say this before I get off. Okay, when the Titans had the ball, they was at the goal line. So when Tannehill about to give Derrick Henry to make the touchdown before second half, whatever, Do you know this guy named Daley, the one that's standing right there? He knocked the ball away. I'm like, what are you doing, you dude? That guy, oh my God. I mean, but other than that, all I can say is TENNE, crooked ladder, Tyner. Yes.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, I appreciate the vocals.
Oh, it's good stuff.
I love it.
Music City.
There you go.
She might be in Ohio, but she's representing Music City. Goodness. All right, let's go to William in Las Vegas up next. Another out-of-state caller to add to our list this afternoon. What's going on, William?
Oh, not much. How y'all doing, gentlemen?
We're good.
Hey, I'm starting to, learn to love the Titans' ugly wins. Like, it's kind of like being married to an ugly wife. Sometimes there's benefits to it. So you want,
What are those benefits?
The main benefits is that that she won't cheat on you.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, with their ugly wins, I guess I'm learning. This year I'm just going to have to learn to love it. That's the main thing I'm just trying to say. I'm going to learn to love it.
Thank you, William.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the call.
Well, to his point, I think as long as you keep winning, I think any coach, any player, they don't care at the end of the day as long as you win a football game. We win by 1 point, we still win. And I think early on in this year, as ugly as the season was looking, you were losing, and the way you lost to Buffalo team, a team that we all figure is right now they're the upper echelon. They are the class of the AFC. So, and you look at that, and that was your benchmark, your barometer, where you are as a team, and you didn't really show up on primetime television against one of the elites. I think it was easy to make the assumption this was going to be an ugly year. So the very next week, ugly win. The next week, ugly win. And now that's kind of I don't want to say it's the norm, but that's kind of being what is that's going to continue to happen. But from a Titans perspective, they are continuing to find ways to win football games, albeit ugly. Who cares? At the end of the day, I won 19-10. I still got my 5th win of the season. Now I'm 2 up on the Colts in the division. Regardless of what happens from this point on, you still got the other 4 games with the other 2 teams. And you'll see what happens, and they do as well. So this was almost like a 2-for-1 in a lot of respects because you go 2-0 in the division and both victories come against the Colts.
And in a lot of ways, the issues that have plagued you on defense were completely reversed. You've given up a lot of explosive plays. Mm-hmm. Your issue has been 5, 6, 7 plays in every ball game since Amani Hooker got hurt and since Bud Dupree has been a little banged up with that hip problem. Today, you reversed it, and not only did you limit the explosive plays, the longest play today for Indianapolis was a 20-yard catch by Alec Pierce late on in the 4th quarter. But you created explosive plays for yourself with the pick 6 for Andrew Adams. Titans won this game and extended their ownership over the Indianapolis Colts without an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That's impressive. One of the things, the adjustments it seems to have been from weeks prior is in the secondary. There wasn't as much man-to-man pressure as it seemed to be more zone, keeping things in front of you. Now, that can be something in connection to how Matt Ryan attacked last week where he threw 50-something times and he seemed, and even in this game, was getting the ball out quick,
right.
Really dinking and dunking, working his way down the field. And some of that could have been intentional, but that was evident. There wasn't like you said, wasn't a whole lot of gaps in there. Wasn't that leaving a guy on the island to give up the big play? Because these receivers are pretty good. They have been. Pittman especially, he's a up-and-coming young receiver. And if you leave him enough one-on-one, any receiver in this league, you give him enough one-on-one, they're going to beat you from time to time. And these quarterbacks are good enough to get it to them. So, kudos to the Titans, their adjustments that they made from week 1 to week 1, game 1 to game 2. I said this on the radio this weekend, this past Thursday. I was always amazed at the adjustments that you would make the second time around. Sure. Like, I would be interested to see what were the coaches thinking based off of the familiarity of the team, knowing that we got to play them again in XYZ weeks, and what are we going to do differently? And you saw the Titans adjust pretty significantly, specifically on defense, that you look at it, 33 for 44 at 5 yards an attempt. That's, it kept everything in front of it. With no big plays. Big play was a 20-yarder, and you can live with that. Now, offensively, being critical, you got to put points on the board. Now, you still got the win, and I'm sure Vrabel and I'm sure everybody on the offense side of football is talking to the defense, hey, we got to help you out. But when it needed, when it mattered, when they counted, they needed to get the first down to keep that clock moving and that 4-minute drill, or what the coaches like to call it. They got it done. Offense stepped up in a critical moment. They still didn't get the points. They didn't do all these other things. But in critical times, critical first downs, extension of drives, things of that nature, they did that. Now you just got to add that next level. We got to put some points on the board.
They found a way, and you can find your way to a conversation with us at 615-737-1045 here on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. We go to Nick in Nashville, who is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Nick? Nick, you're on.
All right. Just want to talk about how the first Titans game was so amazing, and you know how explosive it was on that first interception. Crowd was going crazy, man. It's the best Titans game there ever will be.
Thank you, Nick.
It was so explosive. Our defense was outstanding that game. It was so weird how we didn't have no offensive touchdowns, but our defense was great that game.
Hey, Nick, how did you like your first game, man?
Oh, it was great, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Really great.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate the call, buddy. First game and a pretty good way to watch your first Titans game.
Get a victory.
That's right.
I've over the years, I've met people in their first game. A few people I've met in their first game was Music Miracle, which has always astounded me. And what a first game to go to. I met another gentleman. Their first game was the Vince Young comeback, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter comeback. So it's cool, man. That's cool, Nick. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in, man. It's good to hear a young fan and enjoying his first game.
That's right. Absolutely. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Coming up next, we go to Balake. I think that's how we're supposed to say this. Balake on the phone lines. What's going on?
God, you got to love YouTube, right?
That's right.
That name has haunted me ever since that video came out, man. No, I just wanted to touch on the team real quick. I'm down here in Florida, so I really don't get a good feel of what the fan base is feeling up there in Nashville for the team, but I'm glad to see the offense, not the offense, but the defense, be able to get back to what they should be doing. And having Bud Dupree back, having Amani Hooker back. And look, I didn't know who Adams was, but he just quickly became one of my favorite cornerbacks there on the team. But I'm concerned, man. As much as I'm liking this defense, this offense's inability to get open as wide receivers. I mean, I know some of it's scheme. Mm-hmm. But these guys aren't winning these matchups, man. I mean, nobody's getting open. Nobody's getting to their spots. If we're planning on making a deep run into this thing, you need to see more out of that unit. I mean, you can only hope Derrick Henry can do so much before he gets run out. I mean, he's having, over 30 carries in this game?
Yep.
But I'm concerned the longevity of this season. I mean, we're 7 games into it, and we don't have a receiver that's gone over 100 yards yet.
Thank you for the call, Blake.
That's a great call. Great
Appreciate it. You're going to have to get some more explosive plays on offense because obviously you're not always going to have a pick six that's going to pick up your offense. But I think the theme of what the Titans have done is it's something different every time that's picking up for the lack of production at that position. Today it was Andrew Adams. In the past, it was Danico Autry in Indianapolis. In Washington, it was David Long with an interception on the goal line. I mean, as many ways as we continue to say, you can't sustain this kind of success in one-score games, this just is who Mike Vrabel teams are in games like this.
Especially right now. I really appreciate that call. Here's why. As a receiver, I believe I have the skill to beat the guy ahead of me 9 times out of 10. They're going to guess right, whatever. But there are opportunities from a schematic standpoint that you got to be able to put a guy in to help his limitations, motion a guy. Now you see, and I'm going to use A.J. Brown. Hopefully this is the last time I talk about him as former Titan for the rest of this year anyway. You remember watching him go in motion, bubbling him, doing different things, getting him in position to make sure you're going to put him in a favorable spot to be successful. Didn't just always line them up at the X. Didn't always just line them up in the slot or whatever. They moved around. They motioned them. They did things. They reverses. They did a whole lot of different things with him that made him successful. And I don't know if they don't have the confidence in the guys now like that. Obviously, the ability is a little bit different. AJ was a phenomenal talent, but they have some skill sets. And I'm saying, how are we going to expose, if you will, those skill sets of our receivers? But to the Titans receiving core and talking tight ends, totality, everybody, credit, you have somebody that does step up in critical moments like an Austin Hooper did today and make 3 phenomenal plays. But is that sustainable?
Right.
To the caller's point.
It was Chikakonkwo against Indianapolis the first time.
Come on. So is it sustainable? So you got to find something that you can hold your hat on from a passing game perspective and not just rely on fourth quarter Derrick Henry wearing out the defense and finding a way to get this 23-yard gain to seal the deal. So, or else it's just going to, at some point you feel like it's going to catch up to you, but let me stop talking that into existence. Let me leave that alone.
We have a very special guest.
This win.
We have a special guest that has wandered into the 104.5 The Zone studio.
He come to glow. He come to talk bad about me.
Usually he joins us on the phone lines after a game like this, but live and in person with us, please welcome 3HL's Ron Slay.
Man, what's happening?
Into the building.
Man, what's happening?
What's going on?
Man, first of all, KD, let me go on to, preface this, man. I'm fried.
Oh, okay.
Let me say that first and foremost on now. You know what I mean? So I ain't here to make no sense. You know what I'm saying?
Our bosses, if you're listening, no, you're not.
No, they know it. They know it. You know what I mean? Allison, what up? Paul, what up, man? I'm just letting y'all know, man. I ain't got no sense today. I'm just saying there was so much traffic out there. I said, instead of calling in, let me slide on in here, let that traffic die down.
I'm glad you did.
Dog, let me say this, man.
Please do.
See, KD make great points. You know what I mean? He's a man of the people. And he's a man of the game, man. This man will walk the walk, talk the talk, all of it, all under one umbrella. The thing he failed to mention was
Nathaniel.
It's a Nathaniel. It's a Nathaniel. It is a Nathaniel out there, man. And listen, when Nathaniel goes and Nathaniel, all you can do is sit back and say, hey, Nathaniel. You know what I mean? It's a Nathaniel. I told the bully last week, Bully texted me after he got off the air. It was like, man, I tried to explain it to him. They really didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? Don't you worry about it. I got it. And that was on, I think they come on what, Wednesday?
Yeah, Titans tonight.
Titans tonight. And I told him, Bully, don't you worry about that. By the time Sunday get here, I don't care how much time is in between. He's going to do what he does. Yeah, he had 52 passes last week. Mm-hmm. Had a great comeback. But the reason he came back is because he put him in the hole.
In the first place.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then today, it was what it was. The man, hey, man, they was doing what they do. Getting it out quick. Me and KD sitting up there talking about it. Mm-hmm. Getting it out quick, boom, bam, built. Then he held it.
Yep.
A second too long.
And he got that pressure on him.
And
he got panic.
Bud off the edge.
Yep.
And he got rid of that thing. And Adams, who nobody knew, I didn't know if it was.
I literally had to look him up. I had to look him up.
R.I.P. I'm like, I don't know if that's Bud Adams. I don't know if that's Samuel Adams. I don't know what Adams it is. But this Adams right here.
Adams family.
Man, he took that thing to the house, man.
Sure did.
Man, if that didn't work in our favor, I don't know if we scored. Outside of that, you know what I'm saying?
What's crazy is we was up there watching the game, and we talking about this. Yeah. He let me know. He said, I told you. He leaves out for about 2 minutes.
That's it.
Comes back here, throwing another pick. I said, all right, here we go.
That easy, Katie. And guess what? So we were talking about on 3HL, what were going to be the keys to the game? And I said, man, the way David Long has played these last 3 games and these wins is different than he played with the losses and everything else. He kind of picked up to where he was last season. Yeah. So I was like, man, if he can be patient enough, like he was against, I hate to say it, but another Nathaniel, Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Another Colts legend.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. He was waiting. He was patient. He did everything he was supposed to do. And I'm in the bathroom. As soon as I'm washing my hands, here we go. Interception, David Long Jr. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I walked out there with my paper towels in my hand and everything. Ran straight to Katie and told I told you. Sure it is, man. Nathaniel strikes again, man. It's beautiful. And guess what? This ain't no knock to him. Hey, man, that man going to get a couple nods for a gold jacket. And it is what it is. I'm just saying, after 28-3, after what happened, ever since then to this point now, the man gives you an opportunity to win, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, to Slade's point, I mean, is he the type of guy to carry a team in this point in his career?
Right.
He threw 44 times this week, 52 times last week. That's a whole lot of opportunities for your quarterback. Now, last week, I get it, injuries at running back, things of that nature. But this week, I just seemed the formula seemed not to match the personnel, and I get it. To your point, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I think if he won that Super Bowl against the Patriots, he was in.
Oh yeah.
Now he's borderline, depending on how this rest of the season career goes. But is he that guy right now?
Yeah.
And I don't know where y'all rank your number 1 to number 32 quarterback.
Right.
But I'll probably put him somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
As far as starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. So somewhere low, middle probably is where I'd have him.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that doesn't equate putting the ball in his hands. If you that guy the ball in your hands all the time, the game depend on you, you're in that upper echelon, that top 5 or 6 guys.
Yep.
Right now, Burrow, those guys right now, Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
He's not on that right now.
Right. He completed 15 of 21 no-huddle passes within 2.5 seconds of receiving the snap last week. That was without Jonathan Taylor, and that was in a way to try to remedy a lot of the issues Indianapolis has had up front. But we thought that with Jonathan Taylor back in the game, he would get a lot more than 5 carries for 18 yards in the second half of this football game. That is what was so interesting to me. And you heard Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, say it post-game on the Titans locker room report that he was very surprised to see him only get 17 touches in this game and have 44 passes compared to 17 runs. But, guys, it's the only way that Matt Ryan works behind this offensive line that has not lived up to being the highest-paid offensive line in the National Football League.
Right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
And I was looking at, too, I was trying to see with the Titans manufacturing pressure. A lot of times to get after a quarterback like Matt Ryan, you're going to blitz him and make him get out of the pocket because that's where he's uncomfortable.
Yep.
Titans did a lot of this with 4, maybe 5 guy pressure. They were keeping everything in front of them. They didn't put those guys on that island saying, you got to hold up because we're going to blitz.
Yep.
They didn't have to do that today.
Yep.
And that in itself, now, we're going to look at it, Matt Ryan threw for nearly 250 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 picks. So you're going to look at those numbers like, yeah, 250 yards, but they were hard-earned 250. It wasn't easy for him. He was on skates the whole game. I was amazed when I looked back that they only had 3 sacks. It seemed like they was roughing him up all game long, or at least back there game long. So kudos to the Titans. They found something. And we talked about it on your show, Slay, is I was always interested in what is the change up to the second time around. And the thing they did differently this time seemed to be more zone defense. And they got pressure with the guys up front. Dupree helped. I'm sure having him help. Guys like that were getting after the quarterback and putting that pressure on him and forcing him to make some ill-advised throws.
Right. See, my whole thing was, real quick, Will.
Yeah.
Coming back with, I at the beginning of the season, first of all, since this is a sweep, my problem with it was, Irsay, you tried to carbon copy a team, man. That's your rival. Like, that's not what you do. When the Colts have had success, you've been a throwing team. The ball has been in the quarterback's hand. You've been able to go get a guy like Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. Ever since you've been trying to sub a guy in, it hasn't worked. Now you've went and got a franchise running back. So you're like, okay, let me go get a defense. Let me go get a running back. And then you came out and said, we want to be whatever the Titans are and take that crown from them. That's hard to do, man. Yeah, right. I understand a copycat league. That's more so in the NBA. This right here, you got to have a blueprint to go out and be who you are every time because it's mano-a-mano. So a lot of time ain't got nothing to do with skill. Yes, the Jimmys and the Joes, but when you hit a person in the mouth, you got to be able to bounce back. If that's not how you built, you can't manufacture that. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what they're trying to do. So when Jonathan Taylor was coming back this week, you saw what it was, man. This was what was 2-3 weeks ago. We shut that running game down.
Right.
So you bring him back and you take the ball out of Matt Ryan's hand. Now all of a sudden, after him being hot, now it's in limbo.
Yeah.
So what we gonna ride with? We gonna ride with the hot hand, or we gonna ride with our franchise guy who is Jonathan Taylor? it's a mix of emotions.
Right.
Once it stopped, what do? You hit guys like Campbell for 10 catches. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Not even over 100 yards.
That's right.
Right.
You dinking and dunking, that plays to our favor. I
Because
said
it's
coming
the
into
only thing
it,
you can protect on that offensive line.
The thing that was hurting the Titans was the over the top, man.
Yeah, they were getting a big
That was killing us.
And Matt Ryan doesn't have time to throw the over the
You
top
ain't got
passes.
time. And like the thing KD said, man, coming in our show was, man, it's going to be interesting to see if we get pressure on him and move him off his spot. This time, we didn't even have to move him off his spot.
Right.
We left him in the spot and just sent the guy.
He threw it to
And
your
he
spot on
panicked and
defense.
threw it. Man,
You want to take a call, Ron Slay, while you're
I
here?
want to take a Nathaniel.
Okay. Well,
Is
we
Nathaniel
can
on the
do
line?
that too. We got Funky Cheese Man here.
That's my guy.
All right, yeah. Funky Cheese Man is on the phone lines. Hello, Funky Cheese Man.
Funky Cheese Man.
Hey, top of the do, Ricky. I don't care about none of that other talk. How about we didn't do nothing on offense? None of that. Big Jeff showed up hurt. Tanner Hill showed up hurt. Still did our thing. Came through with that win, and as my boy Slay would say, car ain't got no roof. Tighten up. Gas pedal.
Thank you, Funky Cheese Man.
Funky Cheese going to let it be known,
Bring it.
man. He ain't going to play with him, dog.
615-737-1045. After we take our first break, we will get to Vince in North Carolina, Steve and Susie. Hang on with us. We'll get to your calls after the break at 615-737-1045. It's Titans Talk Back presented by League
I'm
Company.
frying too, y'all. I'm
The
out.
Titans win. Ron Slay is here hanging out. 19-10 over the Colts. Titans get the win 19 to 10.
Gets rid of it quickly. It's intercepted. 30, 40, 50. Adams 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Titans. Andrew Adams to the house.
And they get the win thanks to that. A pick six from Andrew Adams, the touchdown the Titans scored today in a 9-point win over the Indianapolis Colts, their 5th straight win over their AFC South rivals. You can join us on the phone lines here on Titans Talk Back at 615-737-1045. Will Boling and Kevin Dyson with you. And Dr. Dyson, since Mike Vrabel was hired in 2018, the Titans are still the NFL's only undefeated team at 9-0 with 9 or more rest days in the regular season.
Wow.
The Titans, after this game, have outscored teams 256 to 97 in 9 games with 9 or more rest days in the regular season. And off of the bye week again today, they get a 9-point win to continue what is a very good trend for Mike Vrabel's Titans.
Wow, that's impressive. Need to get the number 1 seed in the playoffs then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, man, that's impressive. And I knew something of the facts I think that's been brought up a time or two before on broadcasts and things of that nature. But the fact that shows you how he prepares and gets guys ready. Obviously, the break coming, the way and the timing that it did to get guys healthy. I can't say it enough. Hooker and Dupree coming back today.
Huge.
That was huge.
Yep.
Production was there. The energy was there. You could tell they brought a different energy on the defense today, and that just seemed to resonate with the rest of the guys. And Adams, I mean, you got to call it what it is. And as it was brought to me by Corey Curtis, he was playing safety and Hooker the nickel. So it was intentional to get him the reps that he got. And he made the most of them today. He made the big pick six. He was playing center field. He came down, made a couple big tackles. He had 10 of them today, not to say a couple. He had 10 big tackles today. So it was just a good defensive football game for the Tennessee Titans today.
615-737-1045 is how you join in on the conversation. Vince in North Carolina is up next today on the phone lines. Hello, Vince.
Hello, fellas. It sure is good to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Just want to brag on my boys. I think this is one of the gutsiest football teams anybody can ever imagine. They sign these guys off other people's practice squads and off the streets, and they plug them in and they go to work. And doggone, man, what a great day it was today. If I had one complaint, it'd probably be the O-line. I think we've got some trouble there. I think Dylan Radins almost put Tannehill in the hospital today. And, they've had offensive penalties, and Petit Ferrer and the substitute for Nate Davis, well, we know who he is. Can y'all talk about how maybe this offensive line could be gelled a little bit more as we, go into the season? Thanks a bunch.
Sure. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate the call.
Well, he mentioned a few guys, Frere and Radins. I mean, both of them are inexperienced, and this is the most either of them have played in the National Football League, obviously, especially for Frere. Definitely does. He's just gotten here. But a lot of it's just experience. A lot of it is getting comfortable, communication. They're working together for the first time, right? They're just new teammates, and they're both Radins, who has gone from multiple different positions, is now settling in over there at guard. To me, the right side seemed to have had the most success throughout the day as far as running the football is concerned. I thought the left side of the line had some struggles today. They gave up a lot of pressure. I think before Derrick Henry could even get going, he had pressure, and he fell forward a lot of times. But a lot of his bigger runs, it seemed, for the most part, it was coming on that right side of the line, which is the younger guy. So there's going to be those peaks and valleys with the offensive lineman right now, especially with the lack of experience. That's not to excuse any of it, because you're getting paid to be a professional. You get paid to play your best ball either, but their experience level is still not there. And they're going against guys that are pretty freaking good, man. You got some good players that they're going against. So they got to get better. They'll tell you they got to protect better. And truth be told, having a conversation about Radins, you really hadn't heard his name called in a negative since he's been in the lineup up until today. And that was, late in the fourth quarter. So when he gave up that big old play and got that Kenny Hill hit, so that's when also now we notice him. But up until that point, you haven't necessarily noticed him, which is what you want your offensive lineman. You don't want to be noticed. You want them to just be hella solid. The only way you know and say or talk about your offensive lineman is to, man, we had 200 yards rushing. Oh, he didn't get a sack today. Those sort of things. But today, I just felt like some of the inexperience of some of these guys was exposed, and some of the physicality was exposed a little bit. But I'm not in panic mode just yet,
right?
Because truth be told, Derrick Henry still had well over 100 yards, averaging right at about 4.5 yards per carry. Tannehill was only sacked one time, I believe, maybe two. Maybe I think he was sacked twice today, but still could be better.
DeForest Buckner, 3 hurries for him. You get 1 for Unique Ngakoue. Dayo Adengbo gets a quarterback hit in this game. It is a very good Indianapolis Colts front 7, and for all of the disappointments that this team has had on the offensive line on the other side, DeForest Buckner is still DeForest Buckner. Unique Ngakoue has not had his best season so far, but looked a little bit more like himself today. You talk about E.J. Speed, Zaire Franklin. The athletes they have in that front 7 are impressive, and this is one of the NFL's best rushing defenses, and you ran for 138 yards against them. So the Titans at this point are living dangerously on the offensive line because they are succeeding enough in the run game to give themselves a little bit more of a margin for error in the pass game. But I think where the problem lies, Kevin Dyson, is you're not winning a lot of one-on-ones on the outside at wide receiver. And you're not winning a lot of one-on-ones at the point of attack on the offensive line. That's a difficult recipe for success in the National Football League. Coach Mack always says there are no magic plays in this league. You either win one-on-one or you lose one-on-one. The Titans have got to get healthy. Oh, it's the best. You got to get healthy at the wide receiver position and bring back Traylon Burks when you can and get up to speed again at that position. And Kyle Phillips was a big miss today with the hamstring injury that holds him out of this game. But you got to get healthy with Nate Davis at right guard, because so far this season, that has been your best offensive lineman, according to my teammate Ramon Foster, who I talk with 4 hours a day here.
Yep, he was having a pretty stellar season up until the injury, right? Unfortunately. We'll start with the offensive line first, because that's where everything starts. Offense and defensive line, being able to control the line of scrimmage, being able to protect your quarterback and move piles, and with consistency. I think that has been the biggest concern, the biggest thing that has made the offense somewhat inconsistent is that. Now, we've played musical chairs as far as offensive linemen. You know, you've kind of done some patchwork, putting guys in different places. Some young guys have stepped up and now are starting when you would hope they had some time to develop. Another guy who came in as a tackle has now been moved to a full-time guard position. That's a position, maybe some unfamiliarity to that. He's still learning the position, but he seems to be progressing in the right direction. You would like, at least I like to believe he is, but the consistency is not there. That consistency of winning that one-on-one, mano-a-mano battle is not there. And I've said it before in the show. I'll never forget this. When Herm Edwards was on Hard Knocks, and he said, at some given point on the football field, there are players that are battling one-on-one, and we have to win more of those one-on-one battles than they do, and that's how you win football games. And that's essentially it comes down to. That's why I chuckle when you said that about Coach Mack, because that's the ultimate truth. It always comes down to me versus you, whether you're in zone coverage, whether you're in man coverage, whether it's that linebacker, whatever it is. At some point, I had to beat the guy across from me more often than he beats me, and that's how you win football games. And unfortunately enough for the Titans, it hasn't been beautiful, but when it's mattered, they have found ways to win those battles, to win football games, win 5 straight. And win the National Football League, winning 5 straight is not easy. You're not to get on a win streak like this is not easy to do. So, let's appreciate it for what it is, but also recognize there's a lot of growth that can happen, a long way to go so we can maybe start putting up more points. 21, 19, 21, what's the high this year? 24?
24.
Yeah, that 24 points generally give you opportunity to win, but in this day and age of putting the ball in the air, that's to only have a high of 24 at this point in the season, it's pretty rare.
It is.
Unless you're a terrible team, and they're not a terrible team.
Right. 615-737-1045 is the number today on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. We go to Maddox up next, calling from the stadium after this win. What's going on, Maddox?
Huh?
Hello?
Hello, you're on.
Hi, hey guys. I was just saying that we need to talk about some defensive stuff. Overall, the defense looked good. We had some rookies coming in, making some plays. Some people you don't really hear a lot. Hooper came in, made some plays on the offensive front. I just want to know your take on most of the games, because I feel like our defense did good, but, there's some stuff that we can work on. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, Maddox.
Yeah.
Two kids asking good questions.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Yeah, he's right, man. I feel like defense, for the most part, they kept them in front of them. We talked about it a little bit when Ron was here, not giving up those explosive plays as they had before. Even go back to the Redskins game, and again, person aside wasn't in there today, but giving up three or four explosive pass plays against the Redskins, and there wasn't that today. There wasn't that big gas you take the win from beneath your sails type play today, and that was good. And I don't know if obviously it was intentional, but there seemed to be a lot more zone coverage than they had been in the weeks prior. They did a lot more zone blitzing schemes, got after them. They were producing a lot of pressure with 4 and 5 guys, not having to bring a sixth, which you had seen earlier in the season, meaning guys were one-on-one on the island. I saw some man free, saw a lot of cover 4. So there was always something in the air to help keep things in front of you from a defense standpoint. So they were able to produce offensively, just never seemed to really get in a good rhythm. And I think it goes to previous caller's point of finding ways to get the receivers, manufacturing ways to get the receivers the ball other than just typical, here's our offensive play calls, get open. You got to find ways. Maybe these guys, you might have to find ways to maneuver, manufacture some different type of passing schemes to get them opportunities to make plays downfield to help the offense. Because right now they're able to, I say that, and the Titans are number 1 in the league with 8-9 guys in the box of rushing, and they seem to have success. So it's like half a dozen in one hand, 6 in the other. What do you do? Because we're still successful, even though they put all these people in the box, but we could be better. We need to put points on the board to alleviate the stress of being in these one-score games.
At this point, the Titans' explosive plays on offense are if Derrick Henry gets loose.
Yeah.
Cody Hollister gets a 27-yard catch in this game. Thought he stepped up and had a pretty good day. 23-yard catch for Austin Hooper. It needed him to have a big game. We mentioned that at the beginning of the show as well. He gets 56 yards today after coming into this ball game with 55 yards in a Titans uniform all season. That was a big deal. And then Derrick Henry ices this thing with 23 yards, 30 carries for 128, 4.3 yards per carry for the King. Again, over 100 yards. We'll have to wait to get his touchdown that would tie Eddie George for the franchise record in rushing touchdowns for at least another week. Would be cool if he was able to do that in Houston, though, next week.
Yeah,
I will say that.
You're going against the old franchise city,
That's right.
huh?
That's right. But needed somebody to step up. Today, that was Austin Hooper and Cody Hollister on offense, and it was Andrew Adams and David Long on defense. And ultimately, that is what it is going to have to take right now for the Titans, as banged up as they continue to be for a second consecutive season. 615-737-1045. The Titans get their 4th win in a row, 19-10 over the Indianapolis Colts. You can join us to recap this one, where Susie in Nashville will get the next word on the phone lines. What's going on, Susie?
Hey, how's it going? It feels great today. First time I've lived in Murfreesboro since '93, and the last year and a half I've had to go to Chattanooga. So it's been hard. I think I talked to you, and I told you about Stone's crush on
That's right.
Matt Ryan. So I think I've got her convinced that that's over with. I was supposed to go see Ron this morning, but I had to work late last night, and I overslept, and I didn't get here in time till kickoff. It was great. I don't care how it goes. I don't care. But I try to be a good fan in the crowd, and I have a lady behind me, and she's like, don't give it to Derek. Don't give it to Derek. He's only going to get 1 yard. Okay, and she's got a Titans jersey on. And I'm like, Okay, I'm going to let her say this a couple times, and then, she can't be talking about my king in my house. So, and then she started hollering, "Go Patriots." And I turned around, and I was like, she said, "I'm kind of a smart butt during the games." I said, "Yeah, well, I am too." I said, "Don't come in here talking about the king, and don't come in here hollering for the Patriots and the damn Titans jersey." I said, "Because I can talk it just as good as you can." Don't like it, don't want it, but loved it. Hate them in Ferran's play, and go Titans.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate the call. Fighting the good fight out there in the stands at Nissan Stadium. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Mark is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Mark?
Mark is coming.
Hey, Mark, you're on.
Hey, buddy. I want to say I love y'all's show, and I want to talk about the Tennessee Titans' toughness during this game.
Yep.
Tannehill went down, came back in with a taped-up ankle, and threw a strike to Cooper. He juggled it 4 times. That is a season-changing play for us. Defense played good. We had Adams with a pick 6. We had Henry with a 100-yard game again. He's the closer. Man, it really looks good, man. I love y'all, and I want to say tighten up.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the
Appreciate
call.
you, brother.
Austin Hooper really did have the moment of the season so far. You think about that, and you think about David Long's interception on the goal line to beat the Washington Commanders a couple of weeks ago. But considering the weight of what this game meant and the opportunity there to not only get another win for yourself, but to bury a division opponent that's your biggest competitor for the AFC South, it feels like the moment of the year so far, that catch for Austin Hooper. Juggling it a couple of times. I did not think he'd caught the ball and saw it on the Jumbotron in Nissan Stadium and couldn't believe that he actually somehow came up with that football.
Sometimes, unsuspected heroes step up in opportunities, man. And today was his opportunity, and he made the most of them. And that confidence, you can feel and see that confidence in himself and the teammates in him too, especially after that big catch from third down made a guy miss. And that last catch was just a microcosm of that, just the confidence booster that he has. And from Tannehill's comments, this is something that's been progressing along, and he's getting more and more comfortable with them in practice, which is translating into the game. Now, will he have a career like, say, Delaney Walker? I don't know about that, but if he can be a guy that can move the change, make big plays like this down the field, that's an asset that the Titans could definitely use.
And at least be unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
Because it is so clear when you have the 2 running backs on the field, the ball is so often either going to Dontrell Hilliard or Derrick Henry in a screen game, right? I mean, the Titans don't have the luxury of being dynamic downfield in the passing game because they can't protect Ryan Tannehill long enough to uncork one deep over the defender's head. But they also don't have that speed burner on the outside at the wide receiver position that's going to force you to take a couple of steps back and guard that 30, 40-yard pass over your head. So if that's the case, having a second pass-catching tight end that can be dynamic in that area of the field and in the game plan is massive for this team right now. And now we've seen Chigakonkwo beat the Colts, and now we've seen Austin Hooper help you pick up a win over the Indianapolis Colts. It makes you more multiple on offense, which in turn gives you a little bit of a bigger margin for error when you talk about protecting Ryan Tannehill and also just giving those other receivers a little bit more of a cushion when the defenders don't know exactly where the footballs go.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And, the more assets, the better. The more guys making plays, the better. The more comfortable Tannehill is, the better. And I think especially not having your go-to guy, if you will, that one is a critical moment you're going to. I think having guys that step up, make plays is crucial. And there's been different guys at different points that have done that. And that, to me, is also a sign of a good football team. But again, I hope everybody listens. We're not making excuses for the lack of offense productivity.
They got to fix it.
They got to fix it. We're just saying, in the midst of all this, in this win streak, guys have made plays to help this team win football games in critical moments. David Long and on the side, and on the defensive side, I should say, and offensive side as well, to continue to win football games. At the end of the day, that's all you care about your team. At least I hope. I know we all want them to have averaging 40 points a game, only giving up 10, and be 7-8-0. The reality is you're 5-2, 5-game win streak. You're averaging about 20 points a game. Defense giving up about 14, 16 points a game, but you're winning. And that's, at the end of the day, what all you care about.
And look around the league also, because it doesn't excuse some of the issues that the Titans have, but it puts into perspective that they're winning games despite those issues, unlike Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
Unlike Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost to the two teams I think are probably the two worst in the NFL at this point of the season. When you look at the Washington Commanders, who beat the Green Bay Packers today, and the Carolina Panthers with an interim head coach as a 13-point underdog at home, who beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when we tell you on this show and on any show on 104.5 The Zone that it's easier to correct things after a win, and that you find a way to win, and it wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful, it's because of what an Aaron Rodgers-led team just did today in the same field that you found a way to win in a couple of weeks ago in the Washington Commanders. It's because Tom Brady and the Bucs look like they have not practiced together all season in playing the worst team in the National Football League, and they put up 3 points against the Carolina Panthers despite being healthier at the wide receiver position. I mean, you look at this 49ers team that's beating the Chiefs right now. You know, they lose to Arthur Smith and the Falcons on the road last week. You find a way to win. But not only that, the Jacksonville Jaguars lose again today. You've got Houston next week. You're able to put more distance between yourselves and them in Houston next week and their talented rushing attack with Dameon Pierce. And then you beat the Colts today. There's big opportunities around this division, and no, that we're not excusing a lot of the issues this team has, but when you look league-wide at how many teams are losing games because of big issues, the Titans are 4-2, and they are better than a lot of contenders who we thought were going to be in the mix when this thing was all said and done coming into the season.
Absolutely. And we talked about it off air. We may have said this at the beginning of the show. When we looked at that first loss of the season against the Giants and the way they did, we were a field goal away from winning that game.
Right.
And the conversation was, this is a team that only won 4 games a year before. But it also is a different team with their star player healthy, as we have seen.
And they're 6-1 right now.
They're 6-1 right now. So that loss, not that any loss is better than the other. You want to win them. You want to win as many as you can. That loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it did going into week 3 when you're 0-2 after being destroyed by the Buffalo Bills.
I mean, at this point, the Titans' 2 losses are to the number 2 seed in the NFC and the number 1 seed of the AFC.
Both 6-1.
Crazy.
Yeah. So and they're sitting at 5-2. So if you
4-2.
Or 4-2.
Titans are 4-2. Yeah, 4 wins in a row.
4 wins in a row. So with that being said, with them being 4-2, and you look at it, the 2 losses, you're like, man, okay. We just take care of business. We'll be all right.
Right.
You know, continue to win. Just keep stacking the wins.
615-737-1045. Today is the phone number on Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Frank is in Nashville and up next to talk with us. Hello, Frank.
How's it going, fellas?
We're good.
Good, man.
I just want to start out with saying I know it was homecoming today, so I just want to thank all the Titans before the Dr. Dysons, the D Maces,
That's right,
the Eddie Georges, the Air McNairs, you know, all those guys that got us to the point where we're at now. So I want to thank all those guys to start.
Appreciate
but
you, man.
I will say I was very impressed with, you know, Tannehill didn't have the best game he had, you know, in his career today, but the fact to come back in after the injury and just absolute grind away a win was just something special. And it puts a lot of faith in me, in this team, and things that we can do going forward, because we're battling. Jeffrey Simmons went down and got hurt. He came back in and made some big plays. You know, it's just a big thing to have these guys come in and do big things after injuries and help us get to a win that solidifies our position in first place in this division. That's all I got to say. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all, everything you do. Y'all are great at everything. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Frank.
Yeah, not much to add to that, man.
Right.
He hit it around, all the points around the head.
Absolutely. Good call for sure. 615-737-1045 is how you join us on the phone lines to react to the 5th straight win for the Titans over the Indianapolis Colts. Thomas is in Nashville, up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Thomas?
Hi, guys. I just want to say I'm proud of how they pulled it off today. And also the last guy he forgot to mention about Chris Johnson that was out there. I saw him today.
Yeah.
And I also want to get y'all's thoughts on the other teams, like about the next teams that they're going to have to play in the schedule, like next week with the Texans, and then later on they got to play Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. I want to know what y'all thoughts on how they're going to play, if they're going to do well against those teams, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Thomas. I will say, before they go to Kansas City and play on Sunday Night Football, you would like to have Elijah Molden healthy for that game.
Just some more depth.
He's working his way back and is closer, and was actually talking to reporters this week in the locker room for the first time in a little while. So that was good to see. Usually that means somebody is at least getting a little bit closer to making their way back from IR. But Houston next week on a 3 o'clock start, then prime time in Kansas City. You got some tough matchups, and you've got some dynamic quarterbacks that are still left on your schedule. I will say, though, when you look at the schedule, that trip to Lambeau Field does not look quite as dangerous as it did at the beginning of the season.
We got to be careful when we say that.
Always,
I like the hesitation
it's
in your
always
voice.
Lambeau Field, and I get it. But
and it's still Aaron Rodgers, so I appreciate the hesitation in your voice.
But it's a 3-4 Green Bay team at the moment.
Absolutely. And it goes to show you that not one player wins a game. He especially he has been throughout his career. He has a young group of receivers, and he hasn't looked as elite as he has up until this point in his career. So, to your point, it doesn't seem as daunting as it did prior to when the schedule came out. But, you just play the next game. And the next game is now the most important game, specifically this one, because it is another division opponent, and you get to have an opportunity to go up 3-0 within your division. And that's going to carry a lot of weight. Not that you host by any means, because you still have those 4 remaining games in your division, 2 with Jacksonville and 2 with Houston, with the first one coming up. Those are crucial. Those 4 games are crucial. You need to win those 4. Now, the other ones, the supplemental games, the Chiefs, the Packers, and such, you definitely, those are on your mind, and those are barometers. Those are your checkpoints, right? How do we line up? We're going to, the Chiefs are going to be in the playoffs, right? Yeah. We're all making that assumption. How do we line up? This case we see them. Cincinnati's coming in here. How do we line up? How do we come back from that playoff loss to this team? What did we learn from that opportunity to have another stellar quarterback coming in here and match up against him?
Who had a crazy day today.
You're right. I had him. He was on the other side of my fantasy league, put up 50 points, but that's all right.
Thoughts and prayers to everyone playing Joe Burrow in fantasy today.
It killed me. But to your point, Will, you got to win the division games, and we got these elite quarterbacks and these teams that are coming up, and you're going to be able to test to see where you're at. Now, can you beat the Chiefs with 19 points and no offensive touchdowns? If your defense is playing that well and you do win a game like that, now we're having a whole different type of conversation.
Sure.
If you do that, same thing, even with the Packers, as the struggles they have, can you win with only a defensive score and hold them to 10 points? Same thing with Cincinnati, as we saw today. They put up some big numbers. So, again, going back to what we said, you're going to have to find some offense somewhere. And you can't just rely on deuce to break a big one, to break this thing open.
Sure.
He was close a couple times a day. We saw that. And that would have got the crowd crazy. We've just been waiting on him to bust loose. But you can't just wait on that. We got to find a big play somewhere else. I'm not saying you don't want that. I'm not saying you don't bank on it so much that because he's a big play guy. But you got to find a big play from somebody else. And then when I say big play, what Hooper did today, those are big plays. I'm talking that big gash, that 50-yard catch and run, over the top, jump ball, come what Washington did against us.
Yeah,
One-on-one, make a big play, catch and run. something to that effect. That is what has been missing with this offense and not being able to put points. And will that be sustainable against the Chiefs, against the Bengals, against the Packers, against the Jaguars who are putting up points, against another divisional opponent with the Texans? There's a lot to consider going into these games, man. You're going to have to find some points somewhere. And they found them today on defense, but I mean from offense standpoint.
Sure. Absolutely right. I agree. 615-737-1045 is the number today on Titans Talk Back, presented by League Company. We are here with you until 6:30, taking you right up to Westwood One's coverage of Sunday Night Football here on 1045 The Zone. The Titans trust their home stadium to League Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit leaguecompany.com. League Company, all you need. When we come back, we continue to take your phone calls at 615-737-1045. And we take a look at a Titans defense that was healthier and played a little bit of a different rotation, not only at defensive back, but up on the front seven as well. We break down one of the best Titans defensive performances of the season. Coming up next, it's Titans Talk Back with Will Boling and Kevin Dyson right here at 1045 The Zone.
On 3rd down and 5, it gets loud. Titans rush 4. Ryan in trouble, being chased, stepping up, penalty marker down. He's sacked! Bud Dupree!
Titans Talk Back presented by Lee Company. You heard a lot of that today if you were listening to Titans Radio. The Tennessee Titans rushing 4 and getting home against Matt Ryan and the Indianapolis Colts. In time for our Kroger Sacks for Cash for tonight, the Titans had 3 sacks, adding $300 courtesy of Danico Autry, Jeffrey Simmons, and that sack right there on 3rd down courtesy of Bud Dupree. For the season, Kroger's donation to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee now stands at $3,000 courtesy of 3 sacks tonight. Every time the Titans sack the opposing team's quarterback, Kroger donates $100 to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee through its Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan. Kroger is committed to ending hunger in our communities. 615-737-1045 is how you join in. It's Titans Talk Back presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Alongside Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling. And Dr. Dyson, alumni weekend for Oilers and Titans. And cool to see so many former players brought home by Amy Adams Strunk in this organization today to see such a big win.
Yeah, it's good to see guys that are coming from the Houston organization. More often than not, when this weekend has happened, it's been primarily guys that played in this town. So it's good to see guys that played in Houston get opportunity to come back and meet some people and have fun with that. But it's always fun. You some of us old heads, man, we're way past our day. A lot grayer, a lot stiffer, hunchbacked, and everything else we got going on, man. But it's always special to be able to come back and not necessarily capture your old days, but just there's always that kinship, there's always that bond that you have, a brotherhood that you can't hardly explain. That you wear that crest on your chest, you wear that name of the organization on the front, and it's just you're bonded for life just because of it. So this is always special to have this weekend across the NFL. Everybody has their weekend, whatever weekend they choose, and it's always good to participate in things like that.
615-737-1045 is the number on Titans Talk Back. Max in Bowling Green is up next on the phone lines with us. What's going on, Max?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. Love the show. Love to hear Dr. Dyson's input. Tell you, since going all the way back to the playoff game last season, I'm a diehard Titans fan. Love Coach Vrabel. But what I don't understand, I'd like somebody to explain to me, is our offensive coordinator, Todd. I've had a real hard time regaining trust in him after some sketchy play calls last season and even some this season. But today has really stood out. Well, one that stood out to me today is why, when you're in the second half, close game, Derek's doing fine, we're doing just fine. Why do you need a trick play? Why do you need to bring Malik in for a trick play? Who was that for? I'm trying to figure out the judgment or lack thereof. It leads to a fumble, and it could have been disastrous to the outcome of the game. And I guess what I don't understand enough about the coaching part of the NFL is that something Coach Todd does on his own, or does Vrabel actually sign off on that during the game?
Thank you, Max.
How long have we been on the air?
We've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Hour, 20 minutes? I thought this was going to come up a whole lot sooner.
I did too.
Wow. Well, I'll say this. I think right there at the end of the first quarter when Malik went in, I think they had intentions of running whatever that play was going to materialize into before the fumble then. And then he came in, end of the quarter happened, they pulled him back out, and that was that until that moment. And to your point, the question, at that moment, was that the smartest thing to do from a play calling standpoint? A guy that's cold, no rhythm, really his first real action in a real game. In that moment, in a close football game, was that the most strategic thing to do as a coaching standpoint? No. I second guessed that one myself a little bit. A guy who's probably a little bit nervous. That's not his typical role to take handoffs. He closed his pocket, like the handoff pocket, if you will, a little quick, reaching for the ball and not giving Tannehill a clean pocket. And I don't know what was to happen after he got the handoff. I don't know if there was a throw they were setting up for or what. I don't know because it didn't get a chance to get there. But the other part of that question, who signs off on that? Who makes that call? Yes, ultimately, just like any organization, the person that's at the top of the pyramid or whatever you want to call it, the boss, the head coach, they ultimately had to be okay with that play call. So, yes, Vrabel had to, in that moment, say, hey, I want to run whatever situationally that play was for that particular moment. But that is something they probably worked on in practice. That's not just something you pull out thin air. There was something specifically they saw against the Colts that they thought was going to be effective. But my questioning of the play call comes from the point in which it was called.
Right.
If that's called in the first half or second quarter, or maybe even early third quarter, and it still had the same outcome, I still think you're like, okay, well, at least they're thinking about something being creative and using another athlete that's on the sidelines. But in that moment, crucial as it may have been, it could have been costly and detrimental to the outcome in this game.
I don't want to see any more trick plays to rookies in the fourth quarter of close games. I'm done. I said that during the game. I also don't understand why both trick plays to rookies, of course, I'm talking about the sweep play to Chigakonkwo against New York that failed on a third down and short. I also don't understand why both of them have been sweep plays. Like, there are other ways to run trick plays without moving a guy in motion and trying to execute that kind of handoff and just hand the ball off. I will say that was the second snap for Malik Willis in that game. It was really going to be the third time because another time in this game, I noticed it before. I believe it was at the end of one of the quarters. They ran Malik Willis into the huddle. No, actually, yes, it was.
It was the end of the first quarter.
It was at the end of the first quarter. They ran Malik Willis into the huddle. The referees had signaled for 3rd and 1, and they ran Malik in the huddle. And then they changed their minds and said, no, it's 1st and 10.
Yeah.
And then they ran him back off the field, and the play clock was at 5 or 6, and they just took it to the end of the quarter. So they had already started. The first play Malik Willis was on the field for, it was a shotgun set in the red area in the first quarter. It was on the Titans' first scoring drive. He was in a bunch set as the slot receiver of the right side of the formation, and they ran a swing pass to that direction, and they brought him across the formation to the left. And then ran the same action just out of the shotgun that they did on the run. All that to say, I said at that time, I wonder if they're trying to set something up later with him in the game.
Absolutely.
And make him a decoy. So the only devil's advocate that I will play is that he'd been in the game earlier, and clearly this is something that if you feel confident enough to set it up, then you've practiced it.
Oh, they definitely practiced it.
And you want to feel confident enough, okay, this has worked on the practice field. We're going to take this from the practice field. We're going to set it up in the first quarter. And at a big moment, when Ryan Tannehill's hurt at this point, a little limping a little bit, hadn't attempted a pass since he had his ankle taped up at that point. How do we try to create some kind of explosive play where our quarterback doesn't have to take a hit, doesn't have to plant off of that back foot? That being said, not the time or place with the lead that you had to try that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not necessarily upset with the creativity to try to manufacture big plays and get the balls into what we all look like considering a explosive athlete. I'm not mad at that. I just think at the point in which it was called may not have been the best time to call it, just because it was a nip and tuck situation of a game. It was a very close game. It was just about a one score game and things of that nature. But at least from my point of view, at least they're thinking outside the box and trying to create some plays and give people something else to think about. Because now Houston has to think about that. Okay, what were they trying to do?
Yeah.
If that would have worked, what are they going to accomplish? Why are they putting him in these situations now? Don't the other receivers can't do? What are they doing? So at least now the other teams have to be aware, and that's something else they have to spend time to prepare for, watch film, dissect, and if you will, guess on what's coming next. Because now you got to be prepared for everything if you're Houston or Cincinnati or Kansas City or whoever that's coming with him potentially getting some reps on offense.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in here on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. James in Nashville is up next with us on the phone lines. What's going on, James?
Hey, fellas. Love watching the game. Love to hear from Dr. Dyson. I just wanted to mention there have been some talks recently of a new Titan Stadium, possibly. just wondering, they say it could be a dome stadium. Is that something that you think would be good for this franchise? You know, there's a lot of heritage with Nissan Stadium. But also just wanted to mention, yes, seeing Malik Willis with the trick play was a little strange. It could have been a lot worse, but I do agree that it'd be good to see some more weapons being utilized on the field. Maybe open up some more big plays for Derrick Henry or some passing would be good to see. But yeah, what do you guys think about a new stadium in Tennessee?
Thank you, James.
I just, from my point of view, it just opens up some more possibilities. We saw what the city, its surrounding cities did, or areas did, when the draft was in town. And if to that magnitude, can you imagine what the Super Bowl would bring?
Be crazy.
The Super Bowl, the Final Four, like the
college football playoff, national championship.
Yes,
you could bring an SEC football championship here if you really wanted to try for that.
Yeah. Now, I thought I heard that's only going to be 60,000. That was kind of surprising.
That's correct.
I would have thought it'd been uppers of 75, 80,000. Increase the seat capacity for that very reason, because you can add so many different venues and events here, concerts, and you don't have to worry about the weather, so to speak. But yeah, man, for what they said, they're gunning for 2026, August 2026. So we'll see. I mean, that's kind of ambitious, for what I understand, from a structural engineering standpoint. But that's the plan. That my first question come to mind, like probably everybody else. There's already limited parking in the city as is. What are they gonna do when they start this construction?
That is the question that I have as well.
Mm-hmm. That's gonna be rough.
Yeah, for the next couple of years. The things that stuck out to me: enclosed stadium, not a retractable roof. When you look at the additional cost that it takes to give yourself a retractable roof for something that you really only open twice a year, 3 times a year for a lot of these stadiums, ended up eventually, I think the Tennessee Titans have decided that not worth the additional cost to have that bell and whistle, so to speak.
I can understand that. I don't know if you ever been out to SoFi in L.A. or Inglewood, wherever.
Have not. I've been right by it. Have not been inside of it yet.
And it looks like it's a dome, but it's not. It's more, I don't want to call it a canopy or a tent, but it's along that lines of, it's still open air, but it's completely covered. So rain, snow, not that it snows in Southern California, but
of course.
But you're still protected from the elements outside, but you still get the natural air coming in. I thought that might have been a consideration, other than you might everybody be cool, but at least you're covered from the elements, so to speak. But and I don't know what the cost difference would be, but to your point, I didn't think of it like that. That does make sense. Like, you're talking about something that's going to be open, 2-3, you're going to close it 2 or 3 times a year.
I mean, think of how big of a deal Indianapolis makes of it on social media every time they open the roof, and it's Jim Irsay. It's a big game. We're opening the roof. Like, you do it twice a year.
Yeah, right.
Same company that helped with Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Same company that's going to help with this project as it stands at the moment. That stadium was 65,000 in Vegas, has a translucent roof, which is what the plan is, according to the releases, according to everything we've heard over the past week for the Titans. That one is 65,000, but is expandable to 71,000.
Okay.
I would imagine, I don't have any knowledge of this and haven't seen this anywhere, but I would imagine that at 60,000, you're talking about, if you're hosting a Super Bowl, expanding that closer to 65, 66,000.
Yeah.
That's typically been the formula for a lot of these stadiums. Even the older ones, even when Tampa Bay hosts the game, they add in a lot more seats. So something to think about there as well. But something that's exciting, I think, for a lot of fans, and something that will bring many more events to this city. And that is something we do well, is events.
Especially of recent, man. So
for sure,
it's coming. People be patient. It's coming.
Yeah. 615-737-1045, the number. We welcome your phone calls recapping the 19-10 win for the Titans over the Colts here on Titans Talk Back. And we go to Craig and Donaldson up next to the phone lines. Hello, Craig.
Yes, I have a question. With the November 1 trade deadline less than 2 weeks away, if you're John Robinson and you're thinking about potential targets for positions, what would you do? What moves would you make? And do we have the assets to even ascertain such a massive move like that. That's it. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Craig. I will say just off the top here, I want to get your thoughts on this too, that the Titans aren't deep enough at wide receiver to not kick the tires on every available wide receiver. And there are wide receivers available. You look at DJ Moore with the Carolina Panthers. You look at Chase Claypool with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Potentially Elijah Moore with the New York Jets, who's inactive today, demanded a trade this past week just in his second season out of Ole Miss at the wide receiver position. Kendrick Bourne is the guy that I've had my eye on with the New England Patriots. 55 catches for 800 yards on 70 targets for him last year. He's only on pace for 44 targets this season, and he's only making $3.5 million. Nelson Aguilar, the other name for New England that is going to be, I think, available for many. I say the salary number because that is going to be the thing that holds John Robinson back from making a big move.
Which has probably been burned once or twice in the last couple of years.
That's
You're probably
right.
going to be a little hesitant.
That's right. And one of the reasons why you are in a difficult cap situation is because you restructured Ryan Tannehill's deal to go get Julio Jones. And Julio Jones obviously is no longer on this team and didn't work out. So it's not always the splash move that ends up helping you. Jadeveon Clowney and Julio Jones put you in a little bit of a cap bind at this point. You got to kind of pay your dues for that a little bit now, and you're not able to be as aggressive. But that being said, the Titans brought up Mason Kinsey today. They had Kinsey, Hollister, Westbrook-Akine, and Woods as their 4 active wide receivers today. I think there are certainly phone calls that John Robinson will be making before November 1st for any of those available wide receivers and probably many more who are a little bit more affordable as well.
Yeah. Are there any other those names that you feel would be a good complement fit for Derrick Henry and an addition for Tannehill?
I think Kendrick Bourne is the name.
Is the name.
$3.5 million this year, an unrestricted free agent in 2024, and makes $4.75 million in 2023. Yeah.
It's not a bad pickup. There's another one you said, the Jets guy, Elijah Moore.
Jets insist they're not willing to trade him and don't want to trade him. Obviously, that's what everybody says. That's what the Titans said about A.J. Brown, and he was traded. So take that for what it's worth. But he still is only a second-year player, a draft pick out of Ole Miss by the New York Jets. And there's probably still plenty of time to mend that relationship at this point, considering he's only in his second season.
Yeah, and I wonder what the back and forth is, the divide. I wonder what that is for him.
Because it's not like he's just waiting for a big contract. He's not eligible for a big contract.
Is it his role? Is his role diminishing? What is it at this point that makes you in your second year that you feel like you got to go at it this way?
Well, he wasn't a part of the offense in their win over Green Bay. Yeah.
What about DK Metcalf? Now I'm not saying he would be. He's a big salary cap number, but he's right now. I feel like he's playing nice. I've been trying to keep an eye on what he's got going on, but his production hasn't been nearly the same as when he had Russell Wilson. Now you can say that could be because of quarterback change. You can say philosophy change offensively. I don't know, but is he a guy that you kind of get your eyeballs on? Because Lockett seems to be getting more targets right now, and DK, he's playing nice. He's not saying nothing, but I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Well, the thing about him is that the Seahawks have exceeded expectations. And in that division, it's still up for grabs. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers lead that division at 3-3 right now.
Right.
So I don't see Seattle being a big enough seller to get rid of him at this point. Heck, the Seattle Seahawks right now are leading in Los Angeles over the Chargers 24-14 and are a half away from leading the NFC West.
And he has one catch.
And he was carted off the field actually in the first half too, is the other element of that I was going to get to.
Okay.
Haven't seen the most recent update from that, but do know about a half hour, 45 minutes ago, he was carted off the field. Heck, last time he was carted off the field, it was so he could use the bathroom. So you never know.
Go boo-boo again,
you
man?
never know. I guess, but I would be surprised to see them make that move. I think you're looking at a lot of these 2-5 teams to be the ones that would potentially make a trade. One name I didn't mention who's reportedly available is Brandon Cooks from the Houston Texans. I highly doubt that the Houston Texans would do that trade within the division.
No.
And if they were, it's going to be for too high of a price that you are willing to give up.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't even mention that name off the top. I actually think he is the best fit available for the Tennessee Titans. You talk about the speed that he has.
Stretch the field.
That's something
guy.
the Titans don't have right now is that speed stretching the field guy. But you got to remember, Traylon Burks coming back from the toe has got to be out for a pair of more games. So he's got 2 more games he's got to sit out before he can come back. And Kyle Phillips had just gotten healthy from the shoulder injury.
But he's still not the vertical guy.
And then picks up the hamstring injury. And you're right. He's absolutely not the vertical guy. The vertical threat you counted on coming into the season was Racey McMath, and he's been sitting on IR for the entire season as well, 7 weeks into this thing. So all of that being said, I know Titans fans don't like to hear the in-house options when you've got Chase Claypool who's sitting out there and Elijah Moore who you were interested in the draft process the first time around, but there will be new faces. The 4 receivers you saw today will not be the 4 receivers who are up in a playoff kind of game. You just can't afford to have that.
Yeah. Just reading see some of these comments on Michael Newsom. He said he'll pass on the Moore from the Jets. Starter on a 4-2 Jets team complaining about they don't pass enough. And to his point, you're having a winning record first time at this point in the season in a long time, and you're complaining you're not getting the ball enough?
Yeah. Welcome to Tennessee, where the offense is built around the running back.
Come on, man. He's right.
And it kind of is in New York, too, though, with how good Breece Hall, the rookie from Iowa State, has been.
Yeah. You got to kind of, if you're winning, man, just win. Everybody wants the ball. There's only one of them. I would have loved to have 10, 15 catches a game. But, man, you're 13-3 going to Super Bowl. I'm okay.
Yeah.
You're
cool.
I just got to make the most of my opportunities when they come.
That's right.
And so I like what you said about the receivers, man. I look at what we have right now, and having a consistent guy, game breaker type guy would be useful. And Titans haven't always had that, but they've had guys that could stretch the field. And even when Delaney Walker was here, they didn't necessarily have a receiver that was a quote unquote vertical guy, but Delaney was that.
He was a technician.
He was, and he can stretch the field from
every
the
way.
inside because he was so explosive. So you ended up having to spin when your DB's on him, which cripples you in the run game, or you put a linebacker safety on there, and now he's got the matchup advantage almost every rep. And so that is what you're looking for, somebody that has a matchup win almost every rep. And I don't know if they have that right now or if they're not using the guys in a way that they could have that right now.
615-737-1045 is the number. Michael will lead us off on the phone lines after we come back here on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need online at leecompany.com. More of your phone calls when we come back. Will Boling and Kevin Dyson with you for another hour right here on 104.5 The Zone.
amazing. Never would have dreamed that, given the opportunity to coach, be a head coach in this league, that you'd be able to coach a bunch of guys that are as tough as they are, that care about each other. And I know that it's professional football and there's a lot of tough guys. I understand that. But, top to bottom, I think it becomes somewhat infectious. When guys are peeling themselves off the turf, getting checked out, getting taped up, doing whatever they have to do to be out there. Extremely proud of their toughness and their resolve, mental toughness as well.
There's Mike Vrabel post-game after his team's 5th consecutive win over the Indianapolis Colts, 19-10 today in Nissan Stadium. Along with Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling here on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company, where you can join us at 615-737-1045. And when you talk about Tennessee tough, Kevin Dyson, this is certainly one of the games that we will bring up, mentioning that being the brand of a Mike Vrabel coach Tennessee Titans team.
That's it, man. Tennessee tough, man. It's reminiscent. I think it's been shared of. I go ahead and say back in my day.
That's right.
As I'm an old man now, but we were 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Very physical team, blocked on the edges, had to make plays in the passing game when given opportunity to. Kept moving chains, winning. We were gritty, found ways to win football games. I think we talked about that the last show. Just how many close football games we had on our way to a Super Bowl run. Now, we did have some moments where we put up 40, 41 points, 30-something points, things of that nature. But we beat Jacksonville in 2019. We beat Baltimore like 12-10. Like, you know what I mean? We had some knockout fights, man, and found ways to win football games. And it's not always pretty. But what is pretty is winning. And as long as you can continue to win football games, you don't care. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say that. You do care, but you at the end of the day, you just want to win. But you want to get better. You just want to rest on, hey, we won. Woof, we got through that one. Now, how can we get better and win this next game? And you got another prime opportunity. The second opponent in the division to go 3-0. It's a big game.
Sure it is. 615-737-1045 is the number. Michael is calling from Alabama today to talk with us after this Titans win. Hello, Michael.
Hello. One of the names I haven't heard talked about a lot is New Orleans Saints receiver Marquez Callaway. A guy I see very much when he plays attack the ball, and something that the Titans don't have, in my opinion. A big body receiver on the outside that can jump up and attack the ball. That's one thing. And Vrabel was quoted to say that he thinks Ryan's the toughest quarterback in the NFL. What is y'all's opinions on that?
Thank you, Michael. Callaway, another guy, you're right, that is going to be available. Michael Thomas's health might dictate a little bit of their willingness to deal him.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Thomas is hurt again right now, but the point stands that, yes, that's a guy who might be available as well. I thought Ryan Tannehill had no business going back in this game after his ankle injury.
Yeah.
He was clearly not on stable footing. He makes the throw to Austin Hooper to effectively set up the game-winning field goal in this game. But he certainly showcased a lot of toughness. Whether he needed to is probably a different conversation. But, I mean, what could he say about the guy who he keeps getting hit and keeps getting back up and leading this team, when it matters? And they scored some fourth quarter points today to put this game away.
Let me say this. I'm coming from a vantage point of watching what I consider the toughest player of my era, Steve McNair.
Absolutely right.
And I watched him, I watched Eddie, I watched Bruce, and multiple guys, within my meeting room, battled through toe injury, shoulders, plantar fasciitis, hamstrings, groin pulls, backs, spleens, all sorts of injuries, and find ways to play football games because it mattered. And that resonates throughout the locker rooms. I prefaced it to say this. Why he went back in there is that very reason, because that ripple effect, everybody's seeing their quarterback, the face of the franchise. I know Derrick Henry's the face of the franchise, but quarterbacks are always right there. Take a hit, be injured, and come back out and complete a pass and help his team to victory. That's the ripple effect you want. That's that leadership people look for and to from your quarterback. So it was more than just him showing toughness. That toughness is something that will resonate throughout the rest of that locker room. Say, man, look, our quarterback came back in. How you feeling, man? I can go. I'm on one leg. I got to go. I got to help my team win this football game. That is why it was important for him to come back in that game. As whatever point in the game that was, that's why he came back in. He knew the ripple effects of him coming back in are greater even past this game.
He certainly did, and he got the job done on one of the best throws Ryan Tannehill has made all season to Austin Hooper down the field in order to set up Randy Bullock's final field goal in a 19-10 Titans win over the Colts. Phil is in Portland, up next on the phone lines at 615-737-1045, where you can join us. Hello, Phil.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate your show and everything. I wanted to ask a couple of questions. Hopefully, this ain't too long drawn out. I'll make it real quick. Well, first of all, does anybody know when they're going to break ground to start building a new stadium? The second one I wanted to ask is while they're building a new stadium. And then the third question I want to ask is, how long do you think the Titans are just going to be able to squeak by and win? So those are the three questions I have, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. The first question on breaking ground, we do not have an answer for that because there are still things that have to be completed within Metro Council, and the legislative process has to run its course.
The money.
And it has not completely run its course yet. You took a big step this week in agreeing with the deal with Mayor Cooper's office. That is a big first step. That is not the final step. So we will not have tangible details on that for a little while longer now. The other thing, Kevin Dyson, about the question of how long can they keep winning like this? They've been winning like this since 2018. I mean, this is what the Titans are under Mike Vrabel. And honestly, like, I think of Washington as that kind of game of just squeaking by. You won 19-10 today. I mean, you covered the spread and then some. You're a 2.5-point favorite at home. I mean, yeah, you didn't score an offensive touchdown, and you had to kind of piece it together, and I get that that's what Phil's asking. But in the grand scheme of things, this was your biggest blowout win of the year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Let me ask you, Will, you're a VFL. You're Evolve for Life.
I am.
And y'all just had a big win against the team down south over there in
we did.
Tuscaloosa.
That's right.
Would you take a cardiac arrest win like that every week?
Yes.
Who cares, right? You won, right?
Without question.
Without question.
Without a stutter.
Without question. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not pretty. It's not sexy. I don't care. At the end of the day, I want to win as many football games as I can and get to the tournament, which is the playoffs, and see what happens. And in that moment, I just have to be better than you one time. That's it. And if I'm better than you one time, I can make a run. And we saw that last year with Cincinnati. And we can go historical. Even us in 99, 2000,
right.
We got hot at the right time and made a run. And that's all you care. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not pretty. It's not sexy. Is it sustainable? Probably not. They're going to have to find points. There's going to be a time when you're going to have to get in a track meet. And I'm going to make the assumption it's going to be in a couple of weeks when Kansas City's up.
Right.
But if you beat Kansas City 19-10, are you going to complain about that?
Absolutely
No,
not.
Absolutely not.
Right. 615-737-1045 is the number. Billy, Nancy, Julie, and Jonathan will get to you guys when we come back as we continue to react to this 19-10 win for the Titans over the Colts. 615-737-1045. Facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Will Boling and Kevin Dyson with you until 6:30 right here. Recap another Titans win over those Indianapolis Colts right here on 104.5 The Zone.
unbelievable. I felt like that was just pretty much summed up everything that we wanted to do. It's good defense, good run defense. They're fast, they're big in the middle, and we were close. It was great to see Derek bust out of there at the end, but that 10-yard pile push or that run for 10 yards was, you're starting to look at the clock and you're like, okay, it's going to be third down at 2-minute warning, and then what's going to happen? And next thing you know, it's just they keep pushing the pile, and I know that those guys will be excited, and hopefully there's a good picture we can hang in the hallway.
There is Mike Vrabel talking about the end of this one and the big plays the Titans make to get a 19-10 win over the Indianapolis Colts. Will Boling and Kevin Dyson back with you here on Titans Talk Back, presented by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com. We go back to the phone lines where Billy is in White House up next. What's going on, Billy? How are you?
All right, guys. Kevin, I want to say first time I've ever had a chance to talk to you, but I always loved to watch you play, and I miss not getting to see you play anymore.
I appreciate that, man.
Well, the reason I called in has kind of changed its focus as I've listened to the other callers. And when you're talking about coaches, I was lucky enough to play for some pretty good coaches when I was playing, but I would love to play for a guy like Mike Vrabel. And people can second guess him. That's just human nature, I guess. Everybody thinks they've got a better idea, but this guy is a coach that any football player would love to play for. The little things that he does, you never, ever see a player go down on the field that Mike's not right there. He's right there checking on that guy. And it doesn't matter if he's a starter, or it doesn't matter if he's the lowest guy on the depth chart. If he needs attention, he's there. And those little things like that mean everything if you're playing. And Jay, you were talking about Tannehill being hurt and going back in. I mean, he's a football player. That's what football players do. And I know you guys are in the business of you've got to have opinions in the job that you have, and you take calls from a lot of people that come in. But at the end of the day, coaching football hadn't changed that much over the last 100 years, and it's still the team that blocks the best, tackles the best, in the best physical condition, and have done the best job preparing for that game. Every game you may not throw for 400 yards, and you may not rush for 200 yards. It's those tough games like today that tells you what kind of football team you've got. And people in this area ought to get up every morning and thank the good Lord that they've got a team that's as tough and as gritty as the Titans. And for sure, thank the Lord that we've got a coach of the quality of Mike Vrabel. I think he's, right now, in my opinion, if not the best, he's one of the best in the NFL. And I'm thankful that we've got him. I really am. I appreciate what you guys do, and thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate the call.
Great call. Great points.
I think I agree. There are a lot of players that would love to play for a guy like Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. And I think we get infatuated with certain trends, if you will, fads, if you will. But at the end of the day, specifically with football, it comes down to blocking, tackling, catching, and making as few mistakes as you can. Penalties, holding, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what Mike Vrabel preaches. And at the end of the day, Michael Jordan even said it, man. The game may change. Guys get bigger, faster, stronger. But the one thing that never changes is the fundamentals. And he preaches that, and that was one of the emphases, the focus going to the game is being fundamentally sound. And those fundamentals are not just the physical part of it, the mental fundamentals of the game as well. And if those don't change, regardless of what's happening around you, and excuse me, and to the caller's point, as long as you're successful at those things, you always have a chance to win. And, whether it's 19-10 or not, you give yourself a chance to win.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in on the conversation. We go to Nancy in Lebanon up next on the phone lines. Good evening, Nancy.
Hi, guys. I have a quick question. I know Coach Vrabel keeps injuries close to the vest, but I wondered if you've heard anything about Ben Jones and, of course, Ryan Tannehill and, of course, Big Jeff. I just wondered if y'all have heard anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. The one update we can certainly give about Ryan Tannehill is that he was in a walking boot as he entered and exited the room for his press conference after the game. Ben Jones was able to come back in that game, played that second half, ended up being okay. And then Jeffrey Simmons came back in the game as well after his ankle injury. So no big update on him. It was good to see him back out there. He was, but both of them, it's like you were hearing on Titans radio, they were questionable, and then they very quickly after that were able to get back on the field. So we will not get an injury report for the Houston Texans matchup until Wednesday. And until then, I would not expect to hear any tangible updates from Mike Vrabel or from any of those guys. So the next time that you will hear from Mike Vrabel, of course, tomorrow, his weekly Monday press conference, will possibly address some of their kind of bumps and bruises, but likely you will not know anything tangible until Wednesday.
Yeah, it'll just give you questionable or doubtful and leave it at that. He's coming from that Belichick tree, man. He don't give you too much.
Oh, yeah.
He's not going to give you too much.
That's right.
So, but I fully expect, especially Tannehill, to play. Walking boot aside, maybe not be as mobile as far as rollouts and things like that, but I fully expect him to play.
That's right. 615-737-1045. We go to Jonathan in Hermitage up next on the phone lines. Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, how's it going, guys? So I've just got a couple of things for you guys. First off, Vols fan for life.
There we go.
Big Titans fan. Kevin, I enjoyed watching you play.
Thank you.
As I grew up. So we got this new stadium coming into town, but, man, I can't understand for the life of us, as injury-prone as we've been the past couple of years, why we would be playing on turf.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
This is just – thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Absolutely. The conversation I think we can have about that and the definite information we know and the facts about what the playing surface is going to be like suggests that it's the most advanced turf that you can have, and that as technology continues to advance in that way, you're getting turf that's more like natural grass. And the Titans in their indoor complex in the bubble at St. Thomas Sports Park right now have a kind of material that you're going to see in the new stadium, whether that's in 2026 or 2027. And all of this being said, obviously, if this gets finalized, that is something the Titans end up being able to do, because it's not totally finalized yet, but I think we all are working under the assumption that it will be. Yeah. If you've been on a surface like that, that's as advanced as it can be, where technology has already advanced so much, you can't totally tell it's artificial. And I do think technology will continue to advance in that way, but it's a little bit of a concern. I mean, I know a lot of fans have talked about this, that when you take away the retractable roof, you take away the ability to kind of wheel in a natural grass surface and allow that to kind of naturally be what it is now. But it's a concern, yes, but I think as this thing becomes more modern, and we don't know the advancements that'll happen between now and 2026 as well, I don't think it's as big of an issue as many are making it out to be.
Well, let me give from my perspective as a player. There's nothing that replaces natural grass. The wear and tear in your body, the feel when you get tackled, things of that nature. Natural grass is what if they polled the players, I guarantee you, more often than not, guys prefer the natural compared to the synthetic.
Sure.
But compared to where it was 20 years ago playing on AstroTurf, what was like playing on this table in this room we're in right now, that was hard as rocks, man. It was amazing. There wasn't more injury. That's probably part of the rise of CTE and head injuries on that stuff. It's so hard. And what I would be interested in is the data as it relates to non-contact injuries. As we saw this year, several players in games tear knees and things of that nature with nobody's around them. And that is what the difference to me in synthetic and rubber that's used and sand is used for those synthetic fields, and the difference that in grass. Is there a disconnect there? Is there more non-contact injuries, if you will, on synthetic surfaces, just like there was on AstroTurf compared to natural grass? I was hoping they were doing a retractable roof to keep the natural grass, as most of the NFL is going to the synthetic field because the cost, the upkeep, once you get it down, is cost effective. You don't have to watering it, you're not painting it, you don't have to erase lines for college field teams using it.
Right.
It makes it a lot easier from an economical standpoint to use synthetic fields. But I'm always been a fan of natural grass and the feel on which that is. Now, again, when you talk about weather and rain and all that kind of stuff, that always comes into play because now the surface in the synthetic field, it always stays the same pretty much.
Right.
You're not worried about that. But to your point, technology is increasing. They are advancement. They're doing their research. They're collecting data. How can we make these better? I'll be interested to see if concussions are better because of the rubber and the stuff of bouncing off the turf. Are those better? Those type of hits when your head bangs off the turf, has that been better? But to me, it still doesn't replace natural. But that's the day and age. That's where everything's trending. You want to be able to have a surface for use that can be used at any given point of any given day. And sometimes you can't do that on a natural grass surface.
615-737-1045. When we come back, Julie and JC will lead us off on the phone lines. You can join us here for 30 more minutes on Titans Talk Back as we take you all the way up to Westwood One's coverage of Sunday Night Football. The Titans get the win 19-10 over the Indianapolis Colts. Join us on the phones at 615-737-1045. It's Titans Talk Back presented by League Company on 1045 The Zone.
in the gun. Takes the snap, looking, pressured, throwing, intercepted. Long is at the 35, and he's tackled at the 38-yard line. Second straight game, David Long has picked her off, and the Titans have the football.
Back with you on Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. Matthew Nathaniel Ryan. One of his 2 interceptions today. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. That's Kevin Dyson. I'm Will Boling. Brett Batchelor making the show happen for us tonight as we go to the phone lines and hear from Julie in Clarksville. What's going on, Julie? How are you?
Hey, first-time caller.
Thank you
for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Great game today. Great game. I always look forward to the games where the veteran and alumni show up. I always go down to the field so I can see, who my favorite players are and how they've changed. I didn't know hardly anybody. I know it sounds cheesy, but I wish they would have wore their jerseys, or I wish they would have given them enough respect to at least, go down the line at halftime. They were all lined up. They could have had a camera right there and go, here we are. And let me give them the love for all the memories they gave me. I'll get off the phone and listen to your comments. Tighten up.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate the call.
I appreciate that. It's just gotten so big now. So many guys come back that it's hard. Like when we start doing that, about 8, 9, 10 years ago, however long that was, there was a handful of us. So we got announced one by one.
I remember it.
And then they expanded it, and now they've expanded even more. And you're talking about some of the older Houston Oilers that were here this weekend, and just makes it hard to, give everybody individual shout outs. We're talking about 100 and some odd guys that are participating. So, but they do the best they can. I've heard the other franchises don't do as much as the Titans do, and I've heard the other franchises do more. And it all depends on your matter of perspective, but it's very much appreciated, man. The guys that do come back, it's cool to catch up. Titans take care of the players as they get nice little door prizes. They feed you well, nice little events. So it's a fun time, man. And I appreciate the opportunity and the invite every year.
I think the thing they did that I would have probably changed a little bit was when they had those players come out, they were showing their names on the LCD ribbon board around the stadium. I would have rather seen them put that up on the Jumbotron as you're showing them come out on the field.
Yeah.
They were announcing, 1997 to 2009.
Yeah.
Or 2005. And then it was like 05 to 2011 and then 2012 through 2021. The groups they brought out there. It's a good problem to have that you had so many guys out there, and people want to take ownership of being a Titan, whether or not they wore the flaming thumbtack on their helmets, like some people like to call it, or the oil derrick. They take pride in being a Titan, and that's been so cool to see. Dan Pastorini, the 12th Titan at this game with Delaney Walker. You talk about Earl Campbell saying to people on the record, like, I am a Titan. I take ownership of the Adams family and of this organization and what they've built. So it is a good problem to have. But, I think Julie makes a good point. Procedurally, I think they could have done a better job identifying exactly who was in which group. But, again, these things are difficult, and as they've grown, the Titans organization will learn more about how to more clearly identify who is who and who's out there on the field. And I imagine you got a lot of guys who will say they're coming, and then something comes up, some kind of family thing, and they can't make it. I'm sure you got a lot of guys
I'm guilty of that.
Right. I'm sure they got a lot of guys that just show up and say, oh, yeah, I'm just here. Where do I go? And, these things are harder to coordinate than I think many people realize.
Absolutely. And I've been one of those guys here in town, and I got things going on high school football, homecoming dance or something.
That's right.
End up not making it to a lot of different stuff and maybe taking it for granted that I am here somewhat. But, all the same, though, I think it's just always been cool since the NFL started recognizing alumni guys, bringing guys from different franchises. I get the invite to Carolina every year as well.
Nice.
And I haven't been able to go there because I do this show, Titans game, so I hadn't been able to make it. And so, and I didn't have a long career there as I had here, so I would just be going just because I was invited, so to speak. So it's cool. It's cool, man, to have your franchise recognize you, man, and because a lot of guys have come and gone and put on that uniform that are for lack of a better way to say this, forgotten. And they put a lot of sweat equity, a lot of muscle equity into this franchise to be successful from 1960 on until now. So that's part of it, man. And to be able to be appreciated even for a couple of days, is something that's humbling. And for some of these guys, man, like everybody's not Hall of Famer. Everybody's not on the Wall of Fame.
Sure.
Everybody's not having their name sitting up there every time you go into the stadium. And some of these guys, man, they put in a lot of work, and they deserve to be recognized for it.
And credit to Amy Adams-Strunk and what she's been able to do in creating a culture of people that want to come back and the coaching staff that understands the significance of that. I think we talk so much about Mike Vrabel's strengths and as a football coach and his strength and knowing when guys need a maintenance day and knowing how to manage some of these superstar players who are making a lot of money and reeling them in a little bit. Specifically off of bye weeks and the 9-0 record the Titans have since 2018 with 9 or more rest days in the regular season. I think as a former player, he has a unique perspective in understanding the role of alumni and the role of guys in a homecoming kind of atmosphere. And you think about some of the guys he played with in New England and in Kansas City, and obviously those guys, it's well documented, the friendship he has with Tom Brady and with Julian Edelman and staying connected with them. So he gets it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing it that long ago. So he gets what it means for this generation of recent alumni and of, some of the older legends and just everything in particular. That's what you come back to is that Amy Adams-Strunk, John Robinson, and Mike Vrabel understand the role of what those things mean to the current players and what it means to the alumni as well. I think you can't overstate the success that they've had with alumni weekends like this.
And I'm going to say it wasn't always like that. There was a head coach
No, it wasn't.
Before Vrabel, and he wasn't accepting his alumni. Couldn't go in the locker room and just didn't feel as like we were part of this anymore.
Sure.
He was alienating us, took down all the memorabilia from our run, all the the posters and morals. Murals, morals,
sure,
murals off the wall. He just really alienated us. Even from what I understand, kicked out Eddie George out of the locker room.
Wow,
Eddie George, really? Yeah. So
now you got Eddie George doing the hype videos, introducing the team for every single game.
Come
in
on,
Nissan
man!
Stadium.
Like you just
other end of the spectrum.
When I heard that, I was like, "Oh, he's not gonna last long." You just don't,
Wow.
There's a couple people. There's Eddie, Earl Campbell, Warren Moon. Like they should still have a key to the building. Like they just deserve that. Bruce Matthews, Brad, Blaine, some of these guys that they deserve to be recognized and all that they put in at this franchise. Mace,
no doubt,
and Chris Johnson, Keith Bull.
Really cool for me. I know I'm a younger generation of Titans fan that's grown up here, but it's cool to see CJ2K and Chris Johnson get to the point where he's honored that much in this stadium.
Absolutely.
And he's taken ownership of it on the other end of things as well.
He deserves a key to the franchise too, man.
Sure does.
Like he put in a lot of sweat equity in this building. Javon Curse, Vanden Bosch. I mean, I'm thinking guys that just really battle day in, day out. Delaney Walker, these are just individuals. I know it's a team sport. These are some individuals, they grinded for this city every week and just try to put this city on the map, man. And they deserve to have keys to the franchise, man. When I say keys to the franchise, I'm saying they can come in, be at practice, be in the locker room, chopping it up with players, get tickets to games, whatever it may be. There's some guys that just truly deserve that, man. And I just mentioned a few, and if I'm forgetting anybody, I apologize. But there's plenty of guys that deserve a lot more than what people assume they're getting.
And Jason McCourty now on Good Morning Football, who is back here. Never played for Mike Vrabel, had his last season with Tennessee in 2016, but a draft pick of this franchise, a guy who played a lot of time here. Cool to see him. Cool to see Jarrell Casey.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool.
Jarrell Casey and Delaney Walker. You talk about the hard times the Titans went through about 10 years ago until Mike Vrabel was hired in 2018. Obviously, the playoff season in 2017 as well with Coach Malarkey and Marcus Mariota and Delaney Walker on that group. But Delaney Walker and Jarrell Casey are the two guys who carried over the culture you wanted to keep from some years that you wanted to kind of flush away a little bit. They took the good parts of those teams and the identity of those Titans teams, and they set up the current Titans for success.
Right.
And we talked about that a lot this week on our show, and Ramon, Kayla, and Will here on the station, that the ability of Delanie Walker to bridge that gap from a team that achieved the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, that you trade to the Rams, that becomes Jared Goff on one side and then becomes Derrick Henry on the other side, and Jonnu Smith and Jack Conklin, and obviously well documented that trade, to then that core being led by Jarrell Casey and Delanie Walker to an AFC championship game. Delanie hurt in that season, but pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's guys put in work.
Yeah.
It's a sacrifice. There's a sacrifice that comes with it. There's a physical, mental sacrifice that comes with it, man. And it's always cool to recognize those guys. And again, congratulations to Delanie retiring, coming home, if you will, and recognizing this franchise for how it embraced him and how he embraced it, and the city embraced him and how he embraced the city. Congratulations, man, to him, and that's a special moment for him to be able to come back and celebrate on this weekend, no less.
Could make the argument Delanie Walker is the best free agent signing ever made by the Tennessee Titans in Nashville.
Ooh, I'm gonna throw a couple at you. That's a debate. You got Vanden Bosch. You got Delanie Walker.
Yep.
Ooh,
some good ones.
Some Kerry Collins was a good one.
Yeah, he was. It sure was.
Oh man. There's a few.
Yeah.
There's a few. I'll think of
the 3 Pro Bowl seasons. I mean, the years where Delanie Walker was just dominant at that position as the number 1 target.
You wouldn't get a whole lot of argument out of that one, but the one that comes probably closest and may be over there is Kyle Vanden Bosch. Was a very good free agent.
Oh, he was great. I remember this time of year too is when on the Jumbotron. I remember this as a kid. You would get the Monster Mash mashup with Kyle Vanden Bosch. The Vanden Bosch.
And
it's October every year. He was on the team.
The other one that is not as sexy as a pick, but Kevin Mawai was a very good one.
Oh yeah,
that was another good one. Oh man,
let's think about it in the break and come back and get one more.
You got
segment.
my wheels turning.
No, you and me both. You and me both. JC will get the final word on the phone lines when we come back at 615-737-1045. Titans beat the Colts again, 19-10. We'll wrap things up on Titans Talk back after this.
Ooh.
A lot of work to be done for the Tennessee Titans. We're just through 6 games, but this is a big win. Final score at Nissan Stadium. Tennessee 19, Indianapolis 10, as the Titans take on the Colts and get it done again.
The final call from voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, here on Titans Radio, where the Titans win their 5th straight over the Indianapolis Colts, 19-10. Welcome back into one final segment of Titans Talk Back, presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need, you can visit them online at leecompany.com. SA Recycling, all of our great sponsors as well for bringing our show to you. As Kevin Dyson, we look ahead, presented by Eurofix to next week's opponent. In the look ahead presented by Eurofix, let me remind you that Eurofix repairs everything European that you drive and below dealer pricing. They have ASE certified technicians, a local company that has serviced Middle Tennessee for over 2 decades. Visit eurofixonline.com. Next week, the Titans travel to Houston, taking on the Texans Sunday. That is a late start in Houston. Award-winning Titans countdown begins at 2 o'clock. And that is our look ahead presented by Eurofix. We go to JC in Hendersonville on the phones at 615-737-1045. What's going on, JC? Hey, JC, you're on.
Hey.
Hey, man.
Hey. Kevin and Will, but I love y'all both, but look, let's be real here for a minute, okay? This is not a playoff team. This is, we may win the division, but we're going to go in the first round of the playoffs and possibly lose again. Kevin, I know, 99 was a whole different year. That, that's fine. We barely squeaked out wins that year. A totally different year. This is not the team that can get us into the Super Bowl. Kevin, I just want to get your thoughts on this team. I've called in several times. We're barely squeaking by wins against these teams that are not even worth the time.
Thank you, JC. We are almost out of time here, so we gotta move on quickly. I'll tell you who's not squeaking out wins is Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, because they're losing games.
Well, I think, again, it's not the sexy way to win football games,
Sure.
but at the end of the day, you're still 4-2, still winning your division. I think the biggest thing is when you get to the playoffs, it is about matchups. And Cincinnati got the right kind of track for them last year. And I thought the Titans had the right kind of track if they'd been able to get through Cincinnati. I thought they had a good chance to get there as well, just based on the matchups. So it is about the matchups when you get to that level, and hopefully you lined favorably against whoever that opponent is. And I would just ask JC, what if that first round opponent is the Colts? Would you still have that same sentiment that they can't beat the Colts for a third time? It is hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
Sure.
But the Titans seem to have the advantage over the Colts right now. And I would feel pretty good about going into that game based on what I've seen in the last 2 years. So, again, it's about the matchups. So, no, is it sexy? No, by not any means. Do they need to get better? Absolutely. And Vrabel would be the first to tell you that. The players would be second.
Right.
But they are 4-2, winning the division, and hopefully they get better, and hopefully they don't win ugly like this all year long.
Absolutely right. Titans radio coverage is produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. Our studio producer, Joe Hunkapiller. Scoreboard producer, Lucas Panzica. Promotions director is Rich Ferris. Director of sales, Hunter Rice. General manager, Allison Warren. Operations managers are Charlie Cook and Paul Mason. And the executive producer of Titans radio is Rhett Bryan. Appreciate your interaction on the phone lines. We're back at it next week after the Titans travel to the Houston Texans. For Brent Batchelor, our producer, Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling, saying good night from Nashville.
All right, man. Good luck, man. Have a good week.